How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo and special guest Brandon Etheridge. You've seen him before. He is our basketball guy. He is our football guy, and we're here to talk some basketball today in this episode. Trade deadline is approaching us very shortly, and some big trades have happened. But before we dive into everything around those trades, I would really like to see how my guest is doing. How you doing, Brandon?
Justin, I'm doing great, man. Happy to be back on the pod, talk some sports. You know, it's crazy stuff's going down in the NBA right now. So I'm just excited to be here, man. That's excited to have a good conversation with y'all.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. Genoa, how you feeling, man?
Justin, I am doing great. Not going to lie here. The NBA is heating up just as the last week of the NFL season is wrapping up there as we close on the Super Bowl. But the NBA, man, we're set up. And it's not even All-Star break yet, Justin. And so many trades have happened, not only since that blockbuster Luka trade, but it has been a domino effect and has led to several other trades that's going to determine how these playoffs are set going into the summer.
Yeah, and I think you put it perfectly. It's weird. It's like it's Super Bowl week. Like so much stuff's going on in New Orleans, but you got to pay attention to everything that's happening in the NBA right now. And we're going to start with the biggest bit of news. He's wearing it on. Brandon is wearing it on his hat. It's in that city, LA. Makes the big deal for Luka Doncic, getting him and sending away Anthony Davis, Max Christie in a first. But who cares about that part? Let's talk about Luka. Brandon, how are you feeling? Luka's in LA.
Dude, I'm from Cali, you know, not a Lakers fan, but I do support them. I think the Lakers just got set up for the future. They got set up for this season, next season. Like, they have a star to build around now once LeBron retires, which, you know, hate to say that, have that in our conversation, but it's going to happen. So I think the Lakers, you know, it was a interesting, like, out of the blue move, but I think they definitely came out on top in this trade. And I think Luka he's got a bright future in LA for sure.
Yeah, and with Luka there, with LeBron, I don't know when Luka is slated to return, but what is your outlook just for this season? Obviously, the future is super bright now with Luka there, but what about the rest of the season for the Lakers?
Man, I think that at least this season, you know, they're clinching playoffs, I'd say they'll definitely be in the game. I don't know if they'll go all the way yet, just because I don't know that they're going to be, you know, just connected enough as a team, you know, adding this superstar, you know, halfway through the season. But I definitely think they'll get into the playoffs, you know, fight some battles. But I don't think we'll see them go all the way this year.
All right, and Jano, what do you think? What is the outlook, at least in the short term, for the Los Angeles Lakers?
I would say, securing that fifth seed, looking at the rankings right now, it's Oklahoma City, the Grizzlies, my Rockets are at third, Denver's at fourth, and LA's at five there. So, the Clippers are at six, not really a threat in my opinion. The Timberwolves, now that they got rid of Cat, not to mention the news today that Julius Randle is going to be out for some time. Sacramento Kings, they're at the eighth spot. They don't have De'Aaron Fox anymore. I love Lavine and DeRozan and Sabonis. Maybe they could make some noise. But I think that now that they have Luka, who's been in the finals and, you know, been to multiple Western Conference finals. You got LeBron, who, you know, how many times he's made the finals. So they've got experience there with JJ Redick, which it's like a little bit of mix of new and old there. So I would say their outlook is just staying up there, top five. I would say Oklahoma City Thunder is the team to really go after. They're the number one seed in the West. And I think they've had, you know, the past beat Memphis. So I would just say secure that 5-4 there, because Denver is a sneaky 4 spot there with Russell playing great there. Obviously, Jokic having another MVP-like season. So for LA, just stay in that 5-4, maybe make a run at the 3 spot. I feel like with Luka Doncic there, being able to just play with players he's been familiar with. He knows JJ Redick, knows Dorian Finney-Smith there, and then him, LeBron, kind of play the same. So I think it's going to be just fine now that I think about it. And I'm really excited to see how things go down this Saturday night when he's supposed to make his Lakers debut.
Oh, that's what I'm excited to see. I will definitely, eyes will be glued on that.
Mm-hmm.
But through this trade, I have just 2 takeaways from what I've seen, mainly yesterday with Luka, you know, introductory press conference. He didn't look that fat. What's with this fat talk? He looked just fine.
Come on.
He looked kind of sad. I felt a little bad. He was just
he did. He was hiding some like those smiles. Like they would say something and he'd be like, Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, they just did
They did him so
yeah,
dirty, and
yeah,
he loses out on 100 million for
yeah,
that
like
supermax, and he's got to pay LA taxes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough sledding, even though you're still making millions.
yeah,
But yeah, that was like kind of crazy to see. The only, I guess, to me, the downside for the Lakers, at least for the rest of this season, is they might be allowing 120 points a game. I don't see where their defense of anchor is anymore. I mean, you got Luka, not a big defender. LeBron, no. Austin Reeves, not really. And Bronny's not stepping in. Like, so I just don't see much defense coming from them. But I think once they get in a group offensively, they can make some noise in the playoffs. I think they can knock out. I think as much as it hurts me to say this, I think they can knock out the Rockets. And the Rockets are a good team. They're just young. You never know. You got. Please don't
yeah,
agree,
just
but a crazy trade nonetheless. Will go down as, to me, the most shocking, also biggest trade in the history of my life thus far.
yeah.
But yeah, so Luka is now a Laker and Anthony Davis is a Maverick, and they're both still in the West. But let's discuss a guy who's coming from the East and joining the West. A trade that happened pretty recently, within the last hour. Jimmy Butler is headed from the Miami Heat to the Warriors, in a package that includes Andrew Wiggins heading to Miami, I believe. What a crazy trade that was. Obviously, the whole drama that has happened in Miami. Jimmy Butler is not playing, getting suspended, losing like $3 million is what I heard from all his suspensions. And it seemed like both the team and him were not playing nice with each other. But now he is headed to team up with Steph Curry. Brandon, what is your thoughts with Jimmy Butler headed to Golden State?
Man, this news is so fresh. I don't even know how to feel yet. I think it's going to be an interesting, trade to see how it plays out because, Jimmy Butler hasn't been performing for the Heat. So there's always that worry, as a Warriors fan, if, we just wasted, three of our people for this one guy who, he was a superstar at one point, might still be, but we don't know that. I love that. The name sounds great. If you would have told me Jimmy Butler's on the Warriors a year ago, 2 years ago, would have been ecstatic. Right now, I'm a little confused. I'm curious to see how it's going to play out, and I think we really just have to go from there. We won't know until we see it.
It is, Jano, is in your view, is he kind of washed? Was this a move that Golden State is happy with making?
I think Golden State's very happy with this because I think that maybe now that he's on that team, he has a fresh start. He's playing in a pretty decent organization. I know Bob Myers is no longer the GM. He's been on ESPN for the past year or so. But you still got Steve Kerr there, who's a pretty good coach. You still got Steph Curry, Draymond. Hopefully he's been missing the last, I think, 5 or 6 games. He should be back soon. I think for Jimmy Butler, this is his last stand. I mean, he had fallouts in Chicago and Philly and Minnesota, and now in Miami. It's kind of been a reoccurring thing with him. I think this is the last go around. I think Steve Kerr is the coach to guide him along the way, but this is his last shot. Not to mention, you got Draymond there being that backbone, and making sure that team chemistry is good. And so, if the Warriors want to contend for any kind of playoff play-in at the end of this season, this is what is going to have to happen. And they've been searching for a star since the end of last season. Really, they've been trying to. They knew they were going to cut ties with Clay there, and they were looking for another star to pair with Steph. And I think this is the perfect one. You give him a small forward there. They just need a shooting guard there. Maybe I think his name is Pojinski. I think he is their new two there to go along with Butler, Draymond. You got Looney. You got Moody. I don't think Moody was traded, right? So they got a little team that can make a little playoff run. Excuse me, but Steph Curry is not really playing all that well at the moment. I think his last 4 to 5 games, he's barely hit 15 points. So a little concerning there for Stephen Curry, but hopefully they can get things together.
I mean, if they're trying to put things together for a last stand, because Steph's getting on his last leg, Jimmy Butler in the same boat, this is the time to try because they're currently the 10th seed, 2.5 games from the 6th seed, so they're not too far out, but not worth, throwing this season, and then you never know what happens heading into next year. So overall, I think it's good for them. I don't think this makes them a championship, main contender, but it's worth a shot, I think. I don't know if Wiggins was kind of any super reliable piece in Golden State, after the years they won the Super Bowl, the championship. But I think it's a good move for them. overall. Moving to the next trade that we have on the list here, De'Aaron Fox comes back to Texas, is traded from the Kings to San Antonio. Zach Lavine is also in this package, heads to Sacramento to reunite with DeMar DeRozan. What are your thoughts, Brandon, on this move?
And I'm excited to see De'Aaron Fox play with Wemby. He did what he had to do in Sacramento. So I mean, now that he's got, I mean, the Spurs are crazy. We've got to accept that. Wemby is a freak of nature. So I think that any team that he's on, he's going to bring up the players that are around him. So I think this trade's gonna look super good for the NBA. Maybe even bring up some more viewership, giving Wemby that guard on that team.
Yeah. And Jano, what do you think? De'Aaron is with Wemby. That is a crazy combo.
Justin, I'm not gonna lie. This actually might be my favorite trade out of all the trades. Yes, Luka to LA is fun, and we'll get to a few here in a second. But I love this one because San Antonio's got this once in a lifetime generational player from France who's possibly could end up being one of the greatest centers ever. We'll see. But then you get a guy in De'Aaron Fox who's been to the playoffs, who's now 27, who did like Brandon mentioned. I mean, he did all he could do in Sacramento, but now he's in San Antonio with hopefully Popovich. I know Popovich has been out with the health condition. Hopefully, he can get healthy, get back, and we miss him. He's a legend of the game as far as coaching, and he's got a good coaching staff around him. That organization in San Antonio has always been really first class. In the Popovich era, so it's a great organization. I love Stephon Castle. He's one of my favorite rookies. Devin Vassell, who's been there for a little bit. They even have Harrison Barnes, who's a veteran. I know Brandon is familiar with Harrison Barnes, a former, Warrior guy, was on one of those championship teams. And so I think that if the only thing is they traded away, I think what's his name, Jones. It was Ty Jones.
Oh,
Out of Trey Jones. I think they had traded him away. But hey, I get it though. They have Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox. But hey, I even like Jeremy. What's his name? Jeremy Sochin. Sochin.
I think you're right. Sochin. Yeah.
Sochin. Yeah, he's a backup this year, but he's still solid as they come. And so I like San Antonio for the next year or so. If they don't make the play in there, Justin, I feel like they can get a good free agent in free agency.
And that's where I want to take this discussion a little bit. So now De'Aaron Fox headed to San Antonio. You got, I guess, Zach Lavine is also included in this, headed to Sacramento. You got Jimmy Butler, as we just mentioned, with the Warriors, as well as Anthony Davis on the Mavericks. Okay, so Sacramento's the 8th seed, Golden State's the 10, Dallas the 11th, and San Antonio the 12th, and they're all within 3 games of each other. Looking towards the playoffs, what team do you think has the biggest upper hand, I would say, heading into the possibility of making either the play-in or getting one of those top 6 seeds, Brandon?
I'm going to go with either the Spurs or, I'm a Warriors fan. I got to say the Warriors. I think the Warriors could pull it off, maybe. But I think the Spurs, one of those two, I think the Spurs are looking really good. We'll see how De'Aaron Fox fits in. But, if he does fill that hole that the Spurs need covered, I think they're there.
Jano, same there or what?
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the Dallas Mavericks, they're at 26 wins, right fighting for that last play-in with Golden State, that last final spot in the play-in. I love San Antonio. They're 4 games behind. I just feel like if they can get a little bit on a hot streak right before All-Star break, I think they'll be right there with it. With the Suns, they're at 9 there. But they're right now, as we speak, Justin, looking to trade Kevin Durant. Like I'm seeing news that Kevin Durant is on the trade. I mean, can he go to Miami? Maybe. Could he go to my Rockets? I don't know. There's some teams out there. Maybe he can go to Dallas. So if the Suns were to trade Kevin Durant, I immediately drop the Suns down. And wherever team, if Kevin Durant stays in the West, I like that team as well. And so, man, who knows what will happen. But hey, the NBA is now, Justin. I was thinking about this a month ago. Like, I don't know if I'm going to really tune in the playoffs. Justin, I will be tuning in these playoffs for sure.
And I feel like I could see that. This might sound crazy, but I could see Kevin Durant to Dallas in a move where Nico Harrison, the general manager, is like, I need to save my ass right now. Like I need to save this colossal, like everybody's hating on me. And if you get Kevin Durant in the building, rightfully so, he sucks. Yeah. But if he brings in Kevin Durant, there's a little bit, I think, more or less on his back.
It sweetens the wound, you know.
Yes, there you go.
It heals it a little bit. You cools it down, you know, puts a little
Put a little
water in the
Band-Aid
fire
on
there.
it.
Yeah, a little Band-Aid, little Kevin Durant, I mean, you know, not bad for losing Luka.
I mean, he old too. Dang, they want to become the
Yeah,
oldest team ever.
yeah.
But it's like the Warriors old, and then the Mavericks just want to beat them. It kind of seems how it's
Yeah.
going. But okay, anyway, one more trade that we need to discuss with a former NBA champion headed to the Wizards and switch with Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma now headed to the Milwaukee Bucks. Chris Middleton headed to the Washington Wizards. Brandon, what are your thoughts with this trade?
And I'm excited for Kuzma. I know we're talking about the Middleton side of it, but Kuzma, man, I've watched him since he was on the Lakers. I think he has so much potential still in his career. He's young. I think he's gonna do great things for the Bucks playing along Giannis. As for Middleton, I think he's a solid player. Like you said, he's won a championship with Giannis. I think that he could definitely pull through for I'm blanking on the team.
The
Um,
Wizards?
yeah, for the Wizards. Thank you. But yeah, I think that was a great trade, and I think we're going to see both of these players perform in different ways than they have been.
Janelle, what do you think?
Justin, I love this trade for Milwaukee. Kuzma this year was able to average 15 points and six rebounds there. So 15 points, 6 rebounds for Kuzma. That's going to work wonders there in Milwaukee. You know, replacing Middleton. Middleton going over to Washington. I don't really think it does much. Middleton hasn't really been all that good this year, and plus, I think he started the season off hurt. So now they get a younger guy there, and Kuzma, who's 29 who's had some flashes here the last year or so with Washington, with Jordan Poole. They try to make it work. It's just Washington. It just doesn't work. And people forget that Kuzma was a really, pivotal piece there for the Lakers in the bubble and their run there. I know this bubble team now is making a ton of news with AD, being traded. And, look at what Josh Hart is doing, or not Josh Hart, never mind. Anyways, Kuzma doing good here in Washington. But I feel like there's a lot of pieces of that team there. I know Jason Kidd was a part of that team, and he's pretty mad that they traded Luka. So there's a lot of pieces that are all over the NBA now, and I think like Kuzma fits this Milwaukee like team. And I think that Dame is being able to move the ball, play like a true point guard. Giannis and I really love this team. They're really young there, and I think that Doc Rivers now has a young guy to rely on there in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Kuzma side of it is where I'd want to be. With Middleton, he's injured very often, and he's going to a team that is just a suction cup for ruining good players, it seems. To me, this entire trade deadline now, I'm looking at the big trades we've talked about today, and I feel like besides the Jimmy Butler one, I think you could argue is pretty even. But I think these other trades, like I'm curious what these other teams are doing. Like I love the Milwaukee side of this trade, like by a long margin. I love obviously the Lakers getting Luka is an ultimate steal. And then to me, De'Aaron, I know they get 3 first-round picks in the deal, but there's a lot of protections on these picks. One's a San Antonio first rounder in 2 years. Like, what are we doing here? I think these are all steals.
I will say, Justin, the future of the NBA is for sure set. You got the Thunder, who's the number 1 seed. You got my Rockets, who are playing good. And then now you got the Lakers, who are going to have Luka. The Spurs with De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. I mean, the Celtics are looking to become a dynasty. Hopefully, Milwaukee can build on with getting Kuzma and Dame. Dame Lillard has a couple great more years there with Giannis, and so definitely if and I can't forget about the Nuggets there with Jokic. Definitely though, if LeBron were to be gone by the next year or so, Steph next 2 to 3 years, KD 2 to 3 years, I would say now the NBA is looking a little bit brighter for the future for sure.
Oh yeah, there's some really good teams, especially on the West Side, which is the usual story. But I think I completely agree. And to be honest with you, I think we could see an Embiid getting moved with not
Ooh.
within the next day, but maybe next year, maybe this off season,
Yeah.
when Philadelphia it happens to not work out. So he could be on the move, and it seems like everybody's coming to the West. Which wow, it's a tough race this year. I don't see a clear favorite. Maybe you could argue the Thunder. Maybe you can argue the Celtics, but Houston's looking great. Milwaukee just got Kuzma. We love to see that. The Lakers getting Luka. I mean, there's a lot of good moves here. Memphis is playing really good basketball, as well as, of course, Denver. So the NBA is tight. The Knicks are even good too. So there's a lot of good
The
NBA teams this year.
Cavaliers.
Yeah, I mean, we are a long way away from that. The years of Golden State and Cleveland kind of be the reigning two teams supreme. There's a lot of different really good teams in the NBA, and as the NBA playoffs approach, and once they happen, you will see more episodes from us discussing how things are going to play out. You will see Brandon again. And by the way, Brandon, thank you for joining us for this episode discussing all the big NBA moves. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, Dewey Nation. Keep following, keep dropping, comments, shares, all of the above. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne Nation, this was our NBA trades reactions there. There might be more, so stay tuned there, Dwayne Nation, as we will break news. Who knows? Kevin Durant might be on the move, like Justin mentioned, maybe even Embiid. So I won't be surprised that we'll be making another video. Maybe Brandon will be joining us as well. So Dwayne Nation, thanks for watching. We love you guys, and as always, peace.